I still remember the exact second it happened because everything after that felt like it was moving in slow motion. The gate was loud people arguing with kiosks, kids crying that familiar airport chaos, and then suddenly all of it faded into this sharp, humiliating silence. A woman in a pressed Navy uniform looked me up and down, paused just a beat too long, and said, "Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside," and in that moment I knew this wasn't about a boarding pass. Let me rewind a little. That morning, I'd woken up in a hotel near the airport after 3 days of back-to-back meetings. No sleep, bad coffee head still buzzing from numbers and negotiations. I threw on a hoodie, clean sneakers, nothing fancy. I'd earned the right to be comfortable, or at least that's what I thought. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just trying to get home, you know what I mean? You know, the flight was supposed to be easy. First-class ticket, front row. Quiet, a few hours of peace. I boarded early, found my seat, tucked my bag under the console, and let out this breath I didn't realize I'd been holding all week. For the first time in days, I felt like I could finally shut my brain off. That lasted maybe 2 minutes. A guy stopped next to my seat. Expensive suit-polished shoes, watch that probably cost more than my first car. He didn't say, "Excuse me," at first. He just stared like he was waiting for me to realize my mistake and vanish. When I didn't move, he laughed and said, "Buddy, you're in the wrong place." I told him calmly, "This is my seat." He smiled the way people smile when they already think they've won. "No, this seat is mine. I fly this route all the time." Then his eyes dropped to my hoodie. They must have messed up the upgrade list. I could have argued louder. I could have pulled out my phone right away. But part of me was tired. Tired of proving, tired of explaining. So I just said I bought this seat. That's when he stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne. "Do yourself a favor," he said. "Go sit in the back. You'll be more comfortable there." Before I could respond, a flight attendant appeared. Mid-50s, confident, the kind of authority that comes from decades on the job. She didn't even look at me first. She looked at him, smiled, and said his name like they were old friends. Then she turned to me, smile-gone voice clipped. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass?" I showed it to her. She glanced at it but didn't scan it, didn't verify it. She just looked back at him and nodded like the decision was already made. "There seems to be an error," she said. "This seat is reserved." For me, he added quickly. I felt something twist in my chest. That familiar feeling. Not anger yet, something heavier. "You didn't check it," I said. "Just scan it." She sighed the way people sigh when they think you're being difficult on purpose. "Sir, I know who belongs in first class." That sentence hit harder than I expected. I looked around the cabin. Other passengers stared straight ahead, suddenly fascinated by safety cards and window reflections. Nobody said a word. She told me I could move to another seat or leave the aircraft. Those were my options. I asked her quietly if she was serious. She nodded and said she'd call security if I didn't cooperate. Here's the thing. My whole adult life I've built systems. Invisible ones. The kind people never think about until they stop working. I've spent years staying calm, while everyone else panics fixing problems that could shut entire industries down. And in that moment, sitting there being talked down to something inside me clicked into that same calm mode. I told her, "Go ahead, call them." She looked shocked. The man laughed. Security showed up fast. Suddenly, I was standing in the jet bridge being escorted off the plane like I'd done something wrong while the guy in the suit walked past me smirking. As he passed, he leaned in and whispered something I won't repeat here, but it was ugly, and it was meant to remind me exactly where he thought I belonged. I stood there watching the plane pull away from the gate. First-class window, right there at the front. I could almost picture him settling into my seat, stretching out, feeling victorious. And I felt this mix of humiliation and clarity that's hard to describe. I walked to a quiet corner of the terminal and sat down. Took out my phone. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't call customer service. I opened an app most people would mistake for something boring. And I made one call. On the other end was my operations lead. She answered immediately. "Is everything okay?" I looked out at the runway at that plane lining up for departure. "They removed me from a flight," I said. "I need you to initiate a full shutdown for our client." There was a pause. A long one. That would ground their entire network, she said. I know, I replied. She asked if I was sure. I told her to do it. What happened next still feels surreal. Screens across the terminal started flickering. Departure boards changed status all at once. The plane I'd been kicked off slowed, then stopped completely. Then another one, then another. Within minutes, nothing under that airline's name was moving. Inside, that aircraft systems went dark. Wi-Fi died. Lights dimmed. Air circulation slowed. Passengers shifted uncomfortably confused, hot, anxious. The man in the suit started complaining loudly, demanding answers, demanding service. No one had any. Across the country, their headquarters went into full panic mode. Flights dropping off radar. Communications failing. Stock price sliding fast. Executives shouting over each other, trying to figure out what kind of attack they were under. Then someone finally traced it back. A single authorization tied to a name they all recognized. My name. Back at the airport, security came looking for me again, but this time the tone was different. Polite, nervous, almost respectful. I was escorted to a private room usually reserved for diplomats and VIPs. Bottled water appeared. Apologies followed. Soon after, the airline's top people arrived along with lawyers. They asked me to reverse it immediately. Told me the damage was enormous. Told me people were suffering. Told me I was being unreasonable. I listened. Then I told them exactly what happened on that plane. How I'd been judged. How my ticket hadn't been checked. How I'd been threatened and removed because someone decided I didn't look the part. One of them tried to brush it off as a misunderstanding. That's when I asked them who was sitting in my seat now. The room went quiet. I told them I could restore everything in seconds, but not for free, not with a settlement. What I wanted wasn't money. I wanted accountability. I wanted the employee who made that call gone. Not transferred. Gone. I wanted the man who insulted me banned from their airline permanently, all his status revoked. I wanted a public apology explaining exactly why their entire operation came to a halt. No vague language. The truth. They hesitated for about half a second. Then they agreed. When I restored the systems, flights slowly came back to life. Screens refreshed. Engines powered up. Air conditioning kicked in. The crisis ended almost as suddenly as it began. I declined their offer of a private flight. I didn't want it. I walked out of that airport feeling lighter than I had in years. Weeks later, I heard what happened to the guy in the suit. His firm took a massive hit. Clients left. His reputation never recovered. The flight attendant struggled to find work after the incident went public. And me, I went back to my life. Still wearing hoodies, still building things most people never see. But I never forgot that moment sitting in that seat being told I didn't belong. So here's my question for you. Was I right? Was it too far, or was it justice? Finally catching up to arrogance and assumptions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you would have done in my place and whether you think respect should ever depend on how someone looks.